Paratatve Sadalino Ramakrishna Samagyaya Yo Dharma Sthapana Rato Veere Shankang Namamyaham. So today we are celebrating Swami Vivekananda's birthday. It is the Tithi, not exactly today, it was on the 2nd of February this year. We had the Tithi as we celebrate in the weekend. That's how we are celebrating it today. And in the morning we had our regular special worship, followed by the Homa, Pushpanjali, and the devotees were here, just were enjoying the bliss of the entire occasion. And now in the evening, we are going to have a discussion on Swami Vivekananda's life on this special day, just to reflect on his life and teachings. The topic which we have selected today is exploring the spiritual dimension of being sensitive. Spiritual sensitivity in the light of Swami Vivekananda. Now there is a very interesting saying in Sanskrit that the sensitivity of a spiritually illumined soul is something like the sand particle falling on your eye. If a sand particle falls on your skin, sometimes you are not aware of it. But the same sand particle, when it falls on your eyes, immediately it irritates. So the sensitivity of a spiritually illumined soul is that subtle. To give an example, if we were entering into the discussion, in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, that what sensitivity actually means. That Sri Ramakrishna used to spend few months of every year at his parental home in Kamarpukur. He used to stay in Dakshineshwar, but the 4 months of the rainy season, when the water of the Ganges used to become very turbulent, it was not suitable for drinking, and that's the time in Calcutta we find people used to have a lot of health issues. So that's the time Sri Ramakrishna preferred to be in his village, in his parental home at Kamarpukur. So he was already married by that time, but in those days the marriage was something like the betrothal. The wife was very young. Sharada Devi was very young. Sri Ramakrishna has already reached the maturity. He was a youth in those days, but he was fully spiritually inebriated. So when he used to come to Kamarpukur to stay for those 3 months, Holy Mother, she was still quite young. She used to come from her village, nearby village, Jairambati, to stay along with Sri Ramakrishna at Kamarpukur. She was not staying with Ramakrishna in those days at Dakshineshwar, but whenever Sri Ramakrishna used to come to Kamarpukur, he used to come from Jairambati to Kamarpukur to stay for those few months with Ramakrishna. And we find that the teaching has started then itself. That Sri Ramakrishna has his own way of teaching. That one day we find that in the courtyard, Sri Ramakrishna is sitting and Holy Mother with a long veil. It's very interesting. Sister Nivedita has once indicated that Sri Ramakrishna most probably has never seen Holy Mother's face. She always used to have a long veil. It's something remarkable. The husband has never seen the wife's face. It was always in that long veil. So in that long veil, she was just brooming the courtyard, and Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in a relaxed way in one end of the courtyard. And now the teaching has already started. Sri Ramakrishna in his own playful manner started teaching, as he knows very well his relation with the mother, that she most probably may demand to be a biological mother. Now Sri Ramakrishna has already chosen a path of renunciation, and he wants Holy Mother to be Sahadharmini, to be an associate in the spiritual journey. And Holy Mother was of the same mentality, of the same temperament. But still, to make her renunciation more intense, Sri Ramakrishna very casually started gossiping as if with Holy Mother. Now, suddenly he started saying, what's the use of having children? Just see, in those days the epidemic was very, very prevalent. This year you have cholera, next year you have malaria, the next year you have typhoid. It used to go on in the villages. And whenever the epidemic was there was no such treatment. And we find that a chunk of the population would die. So Sri Ramakrishna was indicating that what's the use of marriage? See, that after the marriage, most probably you have a child for the first year. And now, for the first time you have a child, you are very happy, and the child has grown. He is now 6 months, or she is now 6 months. And now is the time for the first rice giving ceremony. And you just decorate yourself, you put all the ornaments, you adorn yourself with the most expensive sari, and you invite all the people to celebrate the occasion. And then what happens? Suddenly you find your child is sick. And then you have to take the child to the doctor, and the doctor says that he has got infected with cholera. And in a very few days, the child passes away, dies. And then you remove all your ornaments, your costly, the sari, and you just fall on the floor and start wailing, crying, weeping. All your happiness is gone. And now again, most probably after 1 year, after 2 years, again another child is born, and most probably this time it dies because of malaria or of tuberculosis. So what's the use? Sri Ramakrishna was repeating this thing. And now this Holy Mother, she is still a very young girl. She was still has just reached the puberty. Now she herself was a renunciate. But you know that all the villagers will be always gossiping. They say that you are married, you should have children. So from those words, she also had an expectation that she should have children. She should have some kids. Now, when Sri Ramakrishna was repeatedly saying that will all of them die? The children are dying one by one. Then Holy Mother retorted back from behind the well, very feebly, mildly, will all of them die? Just see that much. It's a very simple sentence. Will all of them die? Now, we are speaking that today's discussion is sensitivity. Now, just see that purity is not innocence. It is the maturity through experience of life. That suppose you have done some mistake, but you register that within your psyche so well, so intensely, that next time when you have even an inkling of the chance of again making that mistake, you become aware. Because you are now mature. It is not innocence. A child is not pure. In his mind, so many things are there. In puberty, it will start manifesting. Purity is not innocence. It is the maturity through the experiences of life. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very nicely, that a camel feeds on the thorny bushes. It bleeds because it feeds on the thorny bushes. It bleeds. But again, it feeds on the thorny bushes. And that's our condition. We go on doing the same mistake repeatedly. It never registers in our mind. As someone asked Swami Shardananda that, what is life? In one sentence he gave an answer, wonderful answer. Life is nothing but a chain of experiences. What a wonderful answer. Chain of experiences. Whether we will or not, we have to go through all those experiences, good, bad, whatever it may be. And the next question was, well said Swami, what's the aim of that life, or aim of life? I understand it is a chain of experiences. And again, in one sentence, a wonderful answer the Swami gives, to learn from those experiences. We never learn. We go on repeating the same mistake. Purity is that maturity where you have the capacity of dharana. In Sanskrit, this word dharana, dhriti is a very important word. Medha is a very important word. That it registers in my mind. I never forget. Sri Ramakrishna gives a wonderful example. He was a master of example. For the first time, he went to a studio to have a photography. In the olden days, the photography, it was a bit different. that there used to be a glass behind which there was some coating, and on that slide the photo will be retained. So when he stood in front of the camera, like a small child, he was curious. He wanted to know that how the photo is taken. And the photographer explained. So this is the glass, and behind that there is a coating. When you stand in front of you in the camera, I flash the light, your reflection falls on that, and because of that coating, your image is retained. Sri Ramakrishna is the master of example. Immediately he says, what's the difference between an ordinary person and one who is sensitive, who has already started evolving in his spiritual path? What's the difference? An ordinary person his mind is just like a mirror. You stand in front of it, as long as you are there, your image is there. You move out, no image, it's gone. A spiritually illumined soul, the one who has started evolving, his mind is like that photographic plate. You stand in front of it, your image is there, you move out, it's retained. So that's dharana, to hold on to the experiences of life and not to go on doing the same mistake repeatedly. Now what's the maturity here? The moment mother said, will all of them die? Immediately Sri Ramakrishna was just making fun. He jumped up from his seat and just told, oh, it seems I have stamped on the tail of a very venomous snake. And Holy Mother was so embarrassed, she ran inside. What's the idea? That Sri Ramakrishna hearing that word, will all of them die? Ramakrishna, being extremely sensitive, immediately understood that a trace of desire to have a biological child has developed. Otherwise, why should she ask that will all of them die? And Ramakrishna was cautious. Immediately he jumped up. No more fun. And that's the purity. And that speaks of the sensitivity. In English, there is a word. The price of purity is vigilance. How vigilant you are. Otherwise, sometimes so many things we think, oh, it is an innocent fun. And then we find we are totally entangled in it. Sri Ramakrishna went to Fort William in Calcutta. If you have to go to the Fort William, from the road when you are going to the Fort William, in those days it was like a British, where the British kept all their arms and ammunitions there. So it was a strong building like fort. Many used to go just to see that building. Sri Ramakrishna also visited. So from the road when you are going to the Fort William, you never feel that the road is actually a slope. It's a very gradual slope. When you reach Fort William and look up and look on the road from where you came, you will find you have actually came down a lot. The master of example, Sri Ramakrishna, is again giving a wonderful example. That's what the way to downward spiral motion of our entanglement is. We sometimes never realize. We take so many things as casual. And gradually we find we are so much overconfident. And gradually we find we are getting more and more entangled in the worldly ways of life. Here is the importance of sensitivity. So those who are spiritually evolved, maybe from birth because of its past samskaras, or in this birth, as he is evolving spiritually, we will find that a person is becoming more and more sensitive. So what are the indications? You will find such persons notice subtle details that others would miss. Even in this example, this Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna, very subtle detail. Just a simple remark. Immediately the way Sri Ramakrishna can see through it. Sometimes we will take it as just an innocent remark. So they notice the subtle details that others may miss. They can easily read others' emotion. Just by seeing, you do not have to speak out, but by looking at you, he can as if read the emotions. That speaks of the sensitivity. They can predict how events will unfold. And they have a lot of creative solutions. Whenever a situation arises in life where you have to have some solution, you will find they're very creative. Not only as art and literature, even in a situation of life where you have to take decisions, you find their sense of aesthetics works, the sense of creativity works. And these traits endow them with some unique character strengths. What are they? Empathy. They're extremely empathetic. They have a high intuition. They have a tremendous sense of aesthetics, profound appreciation of beauty, and of course, as we spoke, creativity. But however, in the present society, the stigma surrounding this sensitivity is that you will find that people try to suppress their sensitivity. You will find if you are a bit sensitive, the general norm of the society is don't be sensitive. Don't be sensitive. And because of this taboo, we try to suppress our sensitivity sometimes. So today, that we are here to discuss in the light of Swami Vivekananda, that instead of getting bogged down by the social taboo that forces us to hide our sensitivity, let us try to understand this sensitivity as demonstrated through the life of Swami Vivekananda and try to embrace it and make it an aspect of our identity, of our life, so that it overhauls our personality, it integrates our personality. So we will try to just highlight the few incidences of the life of Swami Vivekananda, which indicates that high sensitivity. So, the boosting sensitivity in childhood, it's that what we can learn from the life of Swami Vivekananda, that sensitivity is something which can be boosted in the childhood. The childhood environment is something which boosts our sensitivity. How the sensitivity can be boosted? It can be enhanced in two ways. Either you have a very favorable circumstances that nourishes your sensitivity, or you have some challenges in life, even from your childhood. And if you have challenges, there are two things. The child may become extremely something like psychopath, but if he has the trait of sensitivity, the challenges will actually help him to grow in strength by really struggle, by exercising against those challenges. Just the way in the gym, we exercise against the weight to gain our strength. The challenges become the strength because the weight against which they work to really become more and more sensitive. So in the life of Swami Vivekananda, we will find both these situations in the childhood are there. Favorable circumstance, of course, is there. The parents were, both of them, this mother and father, they themselves were highly spiritually inclined. And the upbringing naturally was favorable. But there were also a lot of challenging situations. And how we find that Swami Vivekananda, going through all the situations in life, was actually nourished by all those favorable circumstances, as well as he had the capacity to grow in strength by navigating across all those challenging situations. So, let us try to understand with the various instances in the life of Swami Vivekananda. So, as we know, that Noren was a naughty child, extremely naughty. And any book of Swami Vivekananda you take, in the first few pages, this childhood, you will find his mother Bhuvaneshwari Devi used to say that he was so turbulent, he was so full of energy that she had to keep two nurses. Means she herself couldn't control, she required two nurses to control her. He was full of energy. And sometimes he was subject to fits of restlessness. Most probably in the present day, they would have considered him as ADHD. So much restless he used to be. So he used to be very restless. Sometimes he will have, and during that time he was beyond control. But I don't know whether in the present day those who try to treat a hyperactive child will ever think of this treatment which Bhuvaneshwari Devi at last resorted to. Very interesting, we find that when Bhuvaneshwari Devi found that nothing is working, that threats, bribes, nothing. You scold, you try to lure him with some bribe, nothing is working. And she found a wonderful way to calm down the child. She will have some jug of water, pour it on his head, and will repeat Shiva, Shiva, Shiva. And not only that, she will say that Shiva will not let you to go back to Kailash if you do not behave. And immediately he will calm down. So what it speaks of, for most of the children, that won't work. Actually, they will become more revolting, and especially nowadays they will say, the child will say that it is an abuse. You cannot do that. Even to the mother they will say. But that was a different society. We find as Swami Vivekananda, as a small child, is highly sensitive. That sensitivity speaks of a tremendous power of imagination, visualization. These are very much important. Nowadays, in the name of rationality, we sometimes don't make the children listen to the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata. It's very important. We think that rationality is the only thing with which we have to grow. We forget, as a human being, we have a faculty called awe. What's that awe? In Sanskrit, they call that awe faculty is explained by a sentence. Sa anantaya kalpate. That as a human being, I can never think myself as limited. Impossible. As a small child, it can never think itself limited. That's why when he comes from school, he throws the school bag, immediately will be sitting in front of the screen to watch all sorts of cartoons. You speak of rationality. Does the cartoon speak of any rationality? All those characters jumping, or the Spider-Man climbing the wall, is it ever possible? But the child is glued to it. Why? That he can never think himself limited. But at the same time, the child finds, I cannot do sonars, I cannot do so many things. I cannot climb the wall. The Spider-Man is doing. And that way he identifies him with that character and try to transcend the limitation. The Atman is within, which is echoing that you are infinite. You are omnipresent, omnipotent. It is echoing through our body-mind complex. How can we be so much satisfied with the limitations? Impossible. So that echo finds expression as that awe. I want to always relate to something which speaks of going beyond limitation. And that's why, however rationality you speak of, you find the child is glued to all those things. So why not that if I find that the child is having that faculty of awe, not only child, even we have. That's the faculty which we never nourish in the name of rationality. And that's the biggest problem in the present world. As the awe faculty is not nourished, that results in all sorts of evils in the society. To visualize something greater than life and to identify with it, that speaks of the awe faculty. If we are never nourishing it, know it for certain, it's a cause of all the evils. What's the evil? Swami Vivekananda himself was lecturing in the West one day, and he was speaking of Vedanta, the idea of that non-dual self, the Atman, alone abides. He was speaking on where this Brahman, Atman. Suddenly from the audience, one person stood up, one young boy stood up, and he suddenly interrupted Swamiji. He told Swamiji, you are speaking of Atman, Brahman, but in practice you are all idolatrous. You worship idols. And you speak of Atman, Brahman. Swami Vivekananda being interrupted, he was smiling. He stopped his lecture. He was just pacing up and down the dais, and then he came near that boy and told, well man, you also are idolatrous. Well, how come? We don't worship idols. And then what Swamiji told is really very something. You may find it's something, a very silly, as if a very casual statement, but it has a very deep meaning. He just told, why? You young man, don't you kneel down in front of a young girl and say you are an angel, you're divine? Isn't it idolatry? It's something wonderful thing he's saying. That our awe faculty, what it does, when we are growing in the puberty, you will find that you see the opposite sex person and start imagining so many things which that person is not. You are identifying with all your imaginations, and that infatuation develops. That's why the word is falling in love. We always fall in love. We don't rise in love because it's all infatuation. You have actually created all those imaginaries in your mind. It's idolatry. So what happens if your awe faculty is not nourished? It can take you into a tremendous infatuation in the sensual level. Not only that, in the present world, you'll find all sorts of terrorism. We think that most probably those who are economically backward, they can be lured with money to terrorism. No. Established person, doctors, engineers, IT professionals, they also resort to terrorism. Why? Somehow they have been convinced that because of this ideal, if you have to die, even if you just give your life, you will be going to heaven. So again, this all faculty is working. That my life is not limited. If after death I do exist, and I will exist in a higher plane with all sorts of enjoyments. All faculty is working. So as the no faculty was not nourished in proper way, it either finds expression as sensuality or it finds expression as destruction. And now you will find that it was not an abuse. What a wonderful way the mother is actually enkindling that awe faculty. Shiva. You are from the domain of Shiva. You are most probably the Shiva himself. Or you are one of the associates of Shiva. Your domain is Kailash. It transcends this world of duality. If you don't behave, you won't go back there. And this child is sensitive. With his vivid imagination, immediately he imagines. Nothing can stop him. With that imagination, he can really relate. Immediately relates. Oh, most probably, yeah, my mother is correct. If I don't behave, I cannot again go back to Shiva. Immediately calms down. Sensitivity. Wonderful. So these small stories in the life, it's not just simple. It speaks how the child is growing, how the mother and the father is nurturing the child. Just don't be fooled by just the modern way of thoughts and ideas. Sometimes we just like a band of sheep. There's a line, the sheep are going, the first sheep just deviates from the path, all will be deviating. That's what we do in the present society. We forget the perennial values. We forget the wisdom which we are entitled to inherit. We forget. If you just remember, you'll find these lives are wonderful. So this is some simple story that says that we will find that one day Naren behaved very rudely to his mother. The father never scolded. The father saw, but he never scolded. What he did, again in the present world, you will say it's type of abuse. What he did was something very interesting. What he did, when Naren went to school, his father simply wrote those words that today Naren Babu, though he's a young boy, but father with respect told today Naren Babu said such and such words to his mother in the door, because his father knew that Naren, when we return from school, he will be returning with his friends and he will meet them in his room. And that's the thing they are going to see first. And Naren was highly embarrassed. In the present society, again, the child will say, you have done something wrong to me, you cannot do. But Naren being sensitive, in future he will say wonderful thing that he learned from this instance. What is that? That's how much energy we waste in this life to show ourselves that I am great. If I have used that energy to really transform my life, I would have transformed. But we just want to show others that I am good, I am great. That energy that we waste in just showing, if I would have used really to transform myself, I would have transformed. So that here lies that thing, that issue. You will find in the present world of domestic violence, you will suddenly get shocked. Sometimes the husband and wife they appear to be so well related. Very nice relation when they are with the friends. And suddenly we hear something tremendous abuse has happened in the house when they were alone. There's this dual personality. When I'm with others, I'm totally different. Sometimes people won't believe that I can behave in some other way when I am alone with someone else. So this Naren learned. When father wrote that yes, I am supposed to behave at home when no one is seeing me in the same way when I am with others' presence. Mon Mukh Ak. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that what's the practice of Satya? What's the practice of truth? Your mind should correspond your speech. Sometimes with speech, you will find that sometimes we speak inspiringly. The leaders speak inspiringly. But in their personal life, we will find that there's a lot of scandals. Why? Mon Mukh. the mind and the speech are never coinciding. They should always coincide. What you speak, that should be reflected in your life. We should walk our talk. So that's the thing Naren learned, being sensitive. So these instances are wonderful. It's not something that you are abusing the child. It's a challenging situation, but it's not an abuse. You have kept the child in a challenging situation to really reflect on it. If you are sufficiently sensitive, you reflect. It is not that my father is insulting me. He has taught me a wonderful thing. What? I am supposed to behave at home in a way, just the way I want to present myself in front of my friends. So that's the thing. Because of the sensitivity, Naren learned. And that's the thing he's speaking in future in his lectures. That just don't try to show yourself as a good person. Be a good person. So on one occasion, Naren went to his father with a question. His father was interesting. His father, otherwise we cannot get a child like Naren. His father was very extravagant. He used to spend a lot of money with his relatives. He will go to his relatives and he will spend. Whoever asks money, he will give. And Naren found that many of them just wasting the money. Most probably they are buying some intoxicants with that money, wasting. And he knew that father is not saving any money. So one day, Naren has grown up a little. He went and asked his father, "What have you done for me?" "You're just wasting the money." And his father gave a wonderful reply. "What have I done for you? Go and stand in front of the mirror. Go and stand. That you are a young boy, well built, with your good intellect. You are good in your academics. You have a good looks. You are just a strong, stout person. Go and stand in front of the mirror." That's the only answer. Naren, we find, is a wonderful thing. What he understood, it's not an abuse, it's not an insult. Being sensitive, he could take the words in its proper sense. What's the meaning of that? That the real thing which a parent can do to his child is to make him stand on his feet. Not the bank balance I'm giving to you. I make you stand on your feet. I have nourished you. I have educated you. I have made you a productive citizen of the society. Now you built your life. It's not that I will be just feeding you, pampering you throughout your life. So it is not just pampering. To make one stand on one's own feet is the real service. They say that if you feed a person for one day, his hunger is satiated for just one day. But if you teach him cultivation, his hunger is gone forever. So make him stand in his own feet. If you can cultivate the land, you know the art of the science of agriculture, his hunger is gone forever. So make a person stand on his feet. So when his father told, "Go and stand in front of the mirror," the sensitivity of Naren made him understand that. That's the real service. Not just giving a few pence to the beggar. So I still remember in India, in one of the programs, many are antagonistic to these religious leaders. I was sitting there and the SDO of that locality was there. He thinks he's a very intelligent person because after all, he has passed through the UPSC and exams and all. So he's a very intelligent person. He understands everything. It was a program where Swami Vivekananda's statue in a school was going to be unveiled, and the SDO stood and told that there is no need of Swamiji. Why? Because he's speaking of seva, that serve the poor. And now in India, because of the so-called government there, he was most probably pampering the government or whatever that the poverty has been eradicated. So what to serve? And then I really almost reprimanded him by saying, "Do you mean that's the service only which Swamiji is speaking of?" When he was traveling by ship, he was going to the west, Jamshedji Tata was with him. The Indian Institute of Science, which is graded even higher than IIT in India. It's one of the best institutes in India, Indian Institute of Science. It started because of inspiration of Swami Vivekananda. When Swami Vivekananda was traveling with Jamshedji Tata at that time was doing some business of that's import and export. He told, "Okay, that way you are becoming rich, but what are you doing for the society? Why not uh, we just start an institute where our Indians, these young Indians, they learn the all the present technology or whatever technology was available in those days, so that they can start their own enterprises and their own business. From that, Jamshedji Tata got the idea. And it is even written, it's not something that we are saying. If you go to Indian Institute of Science, our inspiration, there is a manifesto there, where Jamshedji Tata, the words of Swamiji, with which Jamshedji Tata was inspired, is mentioned. The Indian Institute of Science, they have kept it there. A manifesto is there, our inspiration. They mentioned there that how that Jamshedji Tata was inspired to open that institute. What's the idea? The same thing, that make people stand on his own feet. When the relief work was going on in India because of extreme famine, our first relief work was started by Swami Akhandananda, another direct disciple of Ramakrishna, in Murshidabad. Because of the dire consequences of the famine, he opened the almshouse where every day hundreds of people were fed. Even the government recognized that in those days, that how a newly evolving spiritual organization with no as such resources somehow is managing to run such almshouse. And it was continuing. Now the famine situation has improved. Now the condition was a bit better, and now Akhandananda wrote one letter to Swamiji. Previously Swamiji was very much appreciating Akhandananda for the work which he has been doing. That's the thing we want. We need that. Serve the Shiva in the Jiva. That's what you are doing. A lot of inspirational words he wrote to Akhandananda. And then we find, when he's still continuing with his relief work, when the condition has improved, he thought that there are so many poor people, why not provide some food every day? Swami Vivekananda wrote one letter, which many will find that what type of instruction is giving. He's telling, stop that, your so-called almshouse immediately. Stop that. And then the next line is very important. If you feed a village with the entire resource of the world, one day the resource will be over, and the next day they will come and again extend their hand. That's not a service. When it is needed, when they are really going hungry, they have no means, of course you serve them. But that's just a short-term goal. The long-term goal is to make them stand in their own feet. Don't encourage them to just extend their hand for alms. Now, if the situation has improved, think of service, providing service in such a way that they stand in their own feet. And that's how Akhandananda started the first school run by Ramakrishna Mission in that remote area of Murshidabad, to make people stand. So that's the thing he's learned from his father. Go and stand in front of your mirrors. Just see what I have done for you. I have nourished you, educated you. And now you're thinking of what resource I have kept for you. You have to build your life. So that's the thing that speaks again of sensitivity. Unless you're sensitive, you will react in a totally different way. So when again we find that that your power of imagination, visualization is something very, very crucial in spiritual life. We find all the spiritual leaders, illuminaries, in one point of life, in some point of life, has went through that flash of illumination. It may be just from nature. When Swami Vivekananda's father was posted to Raipur, and Swami Vivekananda was traveling from Calcutta to Raipur, and in one part of the journey was in Bullock Cart. And it was very scenic place. It was through the Vindhya mountains he was passing. And in one place, two mountain peaks met each other, and where they met, a huge beehive has grown there. The bees have built a huge beehive. And seeing that, in that wonderful, sublime scenery, Naren immediately started visualizing that. Just see the play of the Lord, the one who is behind this creation. How wonderfully this creation he has made. The small bees, how that the intelligence they have to collect the honey and to build. Who has taught them? It's all the intelligence of the cosmos. It is the cosmic intelligence which is pervading the entire cosmos. It is everywhere. This idea, the moment he got stuck, he for the first time, he went into a state of samadhi. He just lost his consciousness. He was oblivious of the surrounding. Just as nature, the nature, even in the life of Ramakrishna, we will find the same thing happen. For the first time, he went into that state of samadhi, was just a scenic beauty. Ramakrishna, that he was passing through some paddy field. He was just walking down the paddy field with some this rice bubbles, we can say, this moody. I don't know in English what they will call it. We can just say it's almost puffed rice or rice bubbles. Tastes like the rice bubbles which here in Australia you get. This rice. So he was having some rice bubbles. He was wearing a dhoti, and that in the dhoti he made some pocket. That by tying the dhoti in a way, and in that the puffed rice or the rice bubbles were there, and he was just munching on those rice bubbles, and he was looking at the sky. It was dark. Cloud after cloud. The layers of cloud were coming. The sky was becoming dark. And suddenly from nowhere, the white cranes came flying. That contrast, the white with the dark brown. Suddenly he fell down. All the puffed rice was scattered. And he lost his consciousness. He transcended this realm of duality. So that's the thing. If you have the tremendous power of imagination, that vivid visualization, it can transport you immediately to that state of high spiritual excellence. So spirituality is not something which only follows a disciplinary path. It is of course required. But those who are highly sensitive, anything in life, any situation in life, can just open up that portal. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a wonderful example. A gardener was just tilling his garden, and suddenly accidentally the axe hit the underground pipe, this water pipe, and a fountain of water started coming. So it's an accident. So similarly, these situations are like an accident. Suddenly it takes you to that tremendous awe that you transcend this world of duality. You get immersed in that infinitude, and it takes you to that realm of a spiritual absorption. So that we find in the life of Swami Vivekananda, even in the childhood. Now, because of extreme poverty, you will find this sensitivity is working in so many ways. Because of extreme poverty after the father's death, Naren went to Ramakrishna. This is the story, very well-known story. He went to Ramakrishna and told that you always worship mother. You talk to mother. Mother listens to you. Why not pray for me so that I can at least have the basic sustenance? I can feed my mother, father, the family. My father has passed away recently. The basic sustenance I can get. And Ramakrishna told, you never believe in mother. At that time, Naren was still an adherent of the Brahmo Samaj. They believe in that idol worship is something sacrilegious, that Brahman is something with a beyond form. So still that idea was adhering to Naren to a certain extent. He was not as such a worshipper of Kali. So Ramakrishna got this opportunity. He told, you don't worship mother. If you worship, mother will listen to your prayers. Go and ask mother yourself, why you're asking me? And he will find that again this tremendous sensitivity gives that wonderful visualization. When we go to the temple, we see a stone image. This Naren with tremendous sensitivity, with tremendous profound visualization, the moment he was in the presence of the Divine Mother, he was as if in the living presence. And what he felt? That how can I ask such petty thing in the presence of the Divine? Ramakrishna used to give a very nice example. That he is a fool who digs a well in the bank of Ganges. Will anyone dig a well in the bank of Ganges? So that's what. Naren was overwhelmed. He went in the presence of the Divine. He forgot all his petty needs. He was praying again and again, give me devotion, give me discrimination, give me wisdom. He returned. Ramakrishna asked him, have you prayed for your sustenance, for the bare necessities of life? I forgot. 3 times he had to go, and all the 3 times he failed. The presence was so vivid. And that's the sensitivity which we are speaking of. We go and we stand in front of the divine and we see just the stone image. So that's why we find whenever someone is to say that the stone image of Dakshineshwar, if Ramakrishna hears that word, immediately he will retort back, no. She is not Mrinmayi, she is Chinmayi. She is Chinmayi. If you have the eye, you can see the consciousness pervading the entire creation. Because that consciousness alone has become this entire universe. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. That consciousness alone is pervading. The Lord alone is pervading the entire universe. We just have to deify. And the spiritual evolution speaks of that deification. And that happened in the life of Naren. We find even as a child, in the presence of the divine, he is no more seeing the stone image. He is in the living presence of the divine, with that vivid visualization enables him to relate to the mother in that spiritual sense, where he finds all these needs are so petty. We transcend all these needs. This is just a passing phase. Through eternity, we are actually the Trikal Avadhita Satya. Trikal means past, present, future. In all the phases of time, I am. Nothing can annihilate me. Nothing can touch me. All these things, the stages I am going through, they are like clouds, they are passing. But in no way they can affect the real me. And once you understand that, the spirituality becomes something different. For most of us, spirituality is just materialism, as Swamiji used to say. Why? That for most of us, God is the means, world is the end. We don't want God. We go to God, we say, we just bow down, and what we say? We pray, oh God, give me this, give me that. Give me a good job, give me wealth, good relations. So world is the end. I want this world. God is just the means. That is just materialism. And what is spirituality? Where world is the means, God is the end. Each and every situation in life can spark the divinity within you. You don't have to run away from the life. You are in the life, interacting with the people. You need not have to close your eyes to seek God. Open your eyes and see Him. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, I worship that God whom the ignorant calls man. I, as an ignorant person, see you as Mr. XYZ. As a spiritually illumined soul, I see the self and self alone. The Atman alone abides. And that's the thing. When, because of your sensitivity, you have evolved so much in spiritually, that it becomes a vivid visualization. You can never ask for petty things. Real spirituality is not to ask for changing the situation. Real spirituality is, in whatever situation I am, I should transcend it by being just the witness, not being affected by it. If I think spirituality means just I go to a person and he blesses me and my fever is gone, I think he's a great person. The question is, till now have any Baba has blessed you so that you have become eternal? No. Yes, for some time you may just, your fever may be gone, your cancer may be gone, but are you eternal? You are going to die. So this life, this transitory life has to end. No one can say that you are going to exist eternally in this plane of existence. That is not spirituality at all. It is just a patchwork. The real spirituality is to transcend this world of duality. I know the first realization of Buddha was that's what this world is having, this suffering. Dukkha. Why? Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. This is the fact of life. However I may try, I can never get rid of them. There's a nice example in Mahabharata. What they say? That this life is actually a game of chess. Where the opponent is what? Mahakala. The time is the opponent. And I know who will win. It's Mahakala will. But still we like to play the game of chess. We go on playing. Why? Not to win. We know we are going to lose. We just go on playing so that we can play 1 or 2 extra moves. Nothing else. With all your yoga, pranayama, just 1 or 2 moves. Maybe you were destined to die at the age of 60. Maybe you will be living for 80, 90. But that much. You're not going to get a life, eternal life. which we all, you ask a person, an 80-year-old, does he want to die? No, no one wants to die. And one who is 90, he'll say, oh, I have left sufficient, now I have to die. No, we all want that eternal life. And if we really want that, that eternal life is not here. It is already there if we know how to relate to the real dimension of our existence. And that's the thing which we find that Swamiji, because of his tremendous spiritual sensitivity, at the very inception of his spiritual journey, is realizing it. So what are the gifts of such sensitivity? We find such person become highly empathetic. There's a very nice episode in the life of Swami Vivekananda in his childhood, that how he grew that empathy, wonderful empathy. That once the same thing that he told his father, that why you are wasting money by just indiscriminately giving it to your so-called extended family, the relatives, who are wasting the money in just intoxicants. They're buying intoxicants. They just come and say that they are in need of such and such thing, but you give the money and then they buy some drugs or some intoxicants, and that's how they're wasting the money. After hearing that, Vishwanath told us something very interesting thing. He told, in this world of suffering, if you can make a person happy even for a moment, know that much alone to be true. Everything else is a trash. He was a man of very big heart. Maybe what you say morally, this sentence may not be correct, but see of the heart of that person, that he feels that he knows very well that they are all as if fooling him. He knows very well that they are bluffing him, but still he gives the money because they too feel happy. They get the money that he wants. When he sees that happy face, he's happy. That in this world of suffering, if you can make a person happy even for a moment, know that alone to be true. Everything else is false. So that's the heart Swamiji is developing. When we find that Swami Vivekananda is traveling around India going to Chicago, before he became world famous. After the passing away of Ramakrishna, he was a wandering monk going around all the places of India. And he had a very strict instruction for other brother disciples. Don't follow me. I want to be alone. Because that empathy made him too much disturbed. If others are there, they become sick. He becomes so involved. He told, see, let us be alone for some time. But suddenly one day, accidentally, he met another direct disciple of Ramakrishna. His name was Swami Turiyananda. All used to call him as Hari Bhai. His previous name was Hari, that's why all used to call him Hari Bhai. So, seeing Naren, Turiyananda asked, well, Naren, that you are now just traveling as a wandering monk for quite a few months, most probably a year. Do you think you have evolved spiritually? And Naren's answer was wonderful. He told, I understand nothing of your so-called spirituality. I understand nothing. But what I realize is something which I will speak to you. What's that? That my heart has grown. It really feels the suffering of others. It feels. So this is the wonderful thing. That's the first sign of spirituality. You will find it is our ego which doesn't allow us to be empathetic. If you see the small children, naturally they are empathetic. They are all playing together, having fun and frolic, and suddenly one child falls and gets hurt and starts crying. I don't know whether you have seen or not. You will find that all the children will start crying. Those who are in the child care, kindergarten, it's a very common experience that if one starts crying, the other starts. I had this experience when I was in India. I went to this Narottam Nagar, Arunachal Pradesh, especially the children who are still the first generation learners, their education has not gone. They're that simple heart children. So we used to go to the villages to just check whether they can write the alphabets, because there was a tremendous pressure for admission. The first generation learners got admitted and they came out as IAS or engineers, doctors. So naturally, they knew that there was a tremendous awareness that this school can really transform the life. So there was a tremendous pressure. So even for a kind, the entire thing was funded by the mission, because the government, of course, was there behind it. They also gave considerable fund to run the school. So we were running everything free there. So the child enters as in the prep, comes out in the class 12 with good results and gets chance in some professional course. And in later, there are so many who have become IAS officers also from that school. So there's a tremendous pressure. So what we do, we take we cannot take all of them. We say just let us see, you can write ABCD 1, 2, 3. And for conducting those tests, we used to go to the circuit house. For the first time, I was not experienced. We gave the pen, the pencil, the paper, and one child started crying. And we were not bothered. Okay, he's crying, what to do? Let him cry. In 5 minutes, all the children kept their paper and pen and all were crying. It was a chorus kirtan, all going on. And that day, we couldn't conduct the exam. The next day, we had to take a lot of volunteers and with lot of chocolates. And we made it that we just ensured that the circuit house 2 rooms should be there for us. In one room we were conducting the test, and if suddenly one starts crying, we will take him in the lap, go to the next room and cajole him and give chocolates just to stop him. Otherwise, we cannot take the test. That is the empathy. Ego barrier. Sri Ramakrishna used to say a wonderful thing. That that our ego is just like a pot. In the ocean, the water is undivided. Now you immerse a pot into it. Some of the ocean water enters into the pot, and now I say this is the pot water. The external waves no more disturb the water in the pot because of the boundary. You remove the boundary, again they become one. If there is a wave outside, that is going to create a turmoil in this water also. But as long as the pot is there, it doesn't. It segregates. That's what we are with our strong ego. We have sympathy, lip sympathy. We know that it's our duty to show sympathy towards other who is suffering. But we don't feel it from the heart because of that strong ego. If the ego is gone, that's the only sign of spirituality, getting rid of the ego. When someone asks Sri Ramakrishna that how shall I be free? Simple answer. When I cease to be. When that I is the cause of our bondage. When that I cease to be, you are free. When shall I be free? When I cease to be. Ami mukto hobo kabe, ami jabe jabe. So that's the wonderful answer. So that's the thing which speaks of empathy. That once you go to spiritually evolve, you become more sensitive. The same thing, that's empathy is something which is bound to find expression through your life. That it's not your duty. You feel just the way the mother feels for the child. Similarly, you feel for the entire world. So that's the thing Naren is saying, that I don't understand anything of your spirituality, but I realize my heart has expanded. It feels the suffering of the world. So that he becomes empathetic, he becomes creative. Now Sri Ramakrishna, his instructions are wonderful. He told that in spiritual life, if you want to accelerate your spiritual journey, then don't be one-sided. Oh, I am Jnani, I am Bhakta. No. That God has given us all the faculties. He has given us emotion. He has given the faculty of intellect, discrimination. Why not use all of them? And your spiritual journey will be much faster. It will be accelerated. You use all your faculties. To give a nice example, that in the olden days, the goldsmith, for smelting the gold, now to get the optimum temperature of the fire to smelt the gold, it needs a high temperature. Now in those days where there was no means to get that type of high temperature in the oven, what they used to do? They had their own simple means. They will lit the fire, and with a pipe they will blow on it. So they're using the mouth. They have some fans in their hand. With that they're also blowing. And there's a paddle in their feet. With that also is fixed to some fan. So they're using their feet, their hands, their mouth, everything to get that optimum temperature. Then the gold melts, it smells. So Ramakrishna is giving that example, that why don't use all the faculties? Why be just one-sided? He used to say a flute has 7 holes. If you press all the holes, keep one of the holes open and you blow, you don't get music, you get just a noise. To get the music, you have to know the art of playing over all the holes, isn't it? So many faculties, each faculty is like a hole. We are like that flute. Why not play a music through your life by using all those faculties, and your spiritual journey gets accelerated? So these are the instructions. Naren, because of his sensitivity, was so, that dharana, he had so intense dharana shakti. These instructions he never forgot. For the first time when he was in the West, in the New York, for the first time, when the question of the logo came, some book has to be printed. Ramakrishna Mission has formed, the Vedanta Society has formed. In the name of Vedanta Society, the book has to be published. So someone came and told that you should have a logo. And Swami Vivekananda, this wonderful logo, that which we have, you can see everywhere, that the swan, that the snake is encircling, and there's some water, the water is having wave, there's a swan on it, behind the sun is rising, there's a lotus. So what's that? That this is a synthesis. The lotus signifies the bhakti, the serpent speaks of the Raja Yoga, the meditative approach, the sun speaks of jnana, and the waves in the water speaks of karma. All this, if you synthesize, tanno hansa prachodayat. By synthesizing all these various faculties which as God has given you, you prachodayat, you just try to attain the goal for which this life is. Hansa, that hansa as Atman is always spoken of as hansa. Why? That there is a idea, this legendary idea, that if you give a swan milk mixed with water, it will drink only the milk, it will leave out the water. So it takes the essence, leaves out the trash. And what's the essence? The self alone abides. Whatever else you see is just superficial, it's trash, it's just an apparent, it's maya. The word maya means, ya means yatha yatha, as it is. Ma is a negation. So what I'm seeing, what I think it is there, as tangible truth as there. It's not. Maya is negating that. So they are negating this. You are just removing this trash, seeing the essence. That is the hansa. So to reach that state, I use all my faculties so that I can reach. So this speaks of the creativity. When this person spoke of the logo, Swamiji just took a piece of paper and with a pen drew a rough sketch and told the person, now just what you say, that put them in the scale, put in a proper scale, and that's how the logo came. So it speaks of the tremendous creativity. Not only that, Swami Vivekananda's life was very short. He was giving lectures. All the lectures were extempore. It's a wonderful thing. There is not a single lecture which was prepared. It was just an outflow of his inspiration. And that's why in those days, they had to keep someone for the shorthand writing. Goodwin was there. Because what was coming out from his mouth was all lost because it was not transcribed. So the devotees in those days felt the necessity that 9 volumes is just the transcript, is just a shorthand note written by, is taken by the Goodwin of Swamiji's lectures. That's how it came. But Swamiji do have written a few poems, few stotras. The Aratrikam song which we sing is so sublime, so wonderful, that whatever he's touching, you find this wonderful sense of creativity. The Sanskrit slokas on Shiva, on Amba, this Amba Stotram, Shiva Stotram, wonderful, full sense of surrender, devotion, empathy, love for the entire humankind is finding expression through all those poems. You cannot just touch a single word of Swamiji without getting enthralled. You know the Romarola, he was a Nobel laureate, a French Nobel laureate. He got inspired by Swami Vivekananda. How you know he got inspired by Swami Vivekananda? He once came to India. He was actually interested on India and wanted to know about India. He met Rabindranath Tagore. And he asked Rabindranath Tagore that how to have a comprehensive idea of this India. And Rabindranath Tagore's that famous statement, he told, if you want to know India, study Vivekananda. In him everything is positive, nothing negative. That's how Romarola became aware of Vivekananda. And reading just knowing about him, he was so inspired, he felt that for the Western world, I should write some life of Vivekananda. He has written a wonderful biography of Swami Vivekananda and also of Ramakrishna. There are 2 volumes of Romarola. And in that, in Swamiji's life, almost in the end, some wonderful statement he's saying. I'm not quoting. I don't remember the exact statement. The idea is that now, some decades later, when I am reading the printed words of Swamiji, his spoken words, I cannot touch those words without getting thrilled. What would have been the situation? What would have been the condition of those people who were sitting in front of him and listening to him. What's a tremendous power those words had. So these words, those who have reminiscence the Swamiji's word, they told that these words were something like the bell of the church. They're so solemn. It was that his voice was so solemn, his ideas were so profound, that it was something which is to transport you to some different realm of existence. It should just transport you. So, and that's all again speaks of the creativity, these wonderful ideas coming. So from where it comes, again, unless you are highly sensitive, you can never imagine this type of spontaneity in your expression. So he was highly creative. He had an acute sensory intelligence. That's another trait of someone who is highly sensitive. Some of Swamiji's life is related to Fiji. Very interesting. When I was in Fiji, I told the Fijians that that Swamiji's life is related to Fiji. How we never visited Fiji. In Belur Mutt, very interesting. One day night, Swamiji was pacing up and down the veranda. Outside his room, there's a veranda. And Vivekananda, another direct disciple of Ramakrishna, saw him that he's almost sleepless. He's not sleeping, he's a bit restless, he's just pacing up and down. And Vivekananda asked him that what happened? Why are you so restless? Swamiji told, somehow I sense something has happened somewhere. People are suffering like anything. I feel it, I'm just feeling it. And next day in the newspaper, the news was there that a tremendous earthquake, that it was a very devastating earthquake in Fiji. Many people died, there was loss of property. And then Vivekananda is remarking that Swamiji's heart is more sensitive than a seismograph. So he has become so sensitive that is acute sensory intelligence you have. And the tremendous depth of processing. You hear something, your sensitivity enables you to process the thing in a very, very deep way, in a very detailed manner, in a very deep way. Just with this, I will actually, because we are taking a lot of time, that in the life of Swami Vivekananda is wonderful. When, as a young Naren, that incident is wonderful, that in the presence of Ramakrishna one day in Dakshineshwar was sitting and the discussion was going on the Vaishnava philosophy. Ramakrishna told that the three pillars of Vaishnavism. What are the three pillars? That Name Ruchi, Vaishnav Shevan and Jive Daya. To have the taste for taking the name of the divine. It's very important. If you don't have the taste for that, you are yet to start your spiritual journey. You should have that love for taking the name of the Lord. Name Ruchi. That's one of the pillars of Vaishnavism. Vaishnav Sevan. Those who are devotees of God, serve them. Thinking them to be the visual representative of the divine. Serve them. And third is Jibe Daya. That be compassionate towards all beings. He said these three words and went into Samadhi. And he came down and he literally spat on the floor saying, Jive Daya, compassion towards being. You yourself are an insignificant creature. How can you be compassionate towards others? What capacity do you have? Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. See the Lord in each and every being and serve Him. Let that be the worship. You are an insignificant creature. How can you help others? That day Naren's told, everyone heard that. It was just like any other instructions of Ramakrishna. No one felt that it is something remarkable. That day Swamiji is saying, what a wonderful message I have heard. If Lord gives me opportunity, this is the message which I will be spreading throughout the world. That's what he did. So this depth of processing, that you can be in front of the Prophet, it's not so easy to have the company of a holy person. We can be in his presence, but unless we are really having that high level of sensitivity, the words will just enter through one of the ear and will pass out the other ear. It will make no impression on your mind. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that however you may go on striking a nail on a hard stone, the nail gets bent. Nothing happens to the stone. For most of us, our mind is like that. Nothing imprints there. But here just see the single sentence From that he finds the message of this yuga, you can say, of this present age. See the Lord and serve Him. What a wonderful, this depth of processing, depth of emotion. Tremendous. He was so extremely, his emotions were very strong, depth of emotion. Whenever he used to visit Holy Mother, he will just shiver. He would shiver that because, why he will shiver? He knew the spiritual, what a spiritual giant she was. That they say that only a jeweler knows the worth of the jewel. Holy Mother herself used to say a wonderful thing, that in the bank of a reservoir, where all the villagers used to go for a dip, there was a coarse rock. They used that rock to rub their feet. They used to rub their feet. To get rid of the dirt of the feet, they used to rub it. And one day John jeweler came there and found it's a wonderful, it's something precious jewel. No one realized that. They thought just it's a rough, coarse rock. Its maximum utility is just to rub your feet. So it's only a jeweler who can know its worth. So we find that Holy Mother was recognized by Sri Ramakrishna, and then we find this Swami Vivekananda. In his letters he is mentioning, you don't know what tremendous spiritual power she has. She looks ordinary. She is not that ordinary. He used to literally shiver when he was in her presence. He used to go to to Bagh Bazar, where Holy Mother was staying, to see her, to have darshan. From Belur Math, Swamiji will be going, and when he will be traveling by boat, and his entire journey, constantly he will be just taking the water. He will extend his hand to the Ganges, taking the Ganga water and go on sipping. A person like Swamiji feels he is not sufficiently pure to meet Holy Mother. It's wonderful. It's this tremendous, that the depth of emotions that you find is highly sensitive, and sometimes that their emotions are so overwhelming, they themselves want to be segregated, because their reactions others may not able to digest. Swamiji was a perfectionist. Everything should be perfect. Now, before the public celebration of Ramakrishna, in his last days, almost in the last year of his life, before the public celebration, if he sees any defect in any small imperfection in any work, he will scold vehemently. And all used to get highly bewildered, means how to face Naren. And this Swami Vivekananda understood that my disciples, my brother monks, are getting overwhelmed. He literally prayed, "Oh Mother, please give me fever. Please give me fever." And he really had fever on the day of public celebration, so that he cannot go out. So in that way, the others are relieved from all those small imperfections for which Swamiji may be scolding them. But at the same time, he was full of love. The biggest example of his segregation is something wonderful. Such segregation you will get nowhere. Now he had a vision. He knew what's going to happen. When he was in Belur Math, he was one day pointing, here the university will come, here the Veda Vidyalaya will come. Others thought it's an imagination. So his disciple who was standing by him told, "Oh Swamiji, it's a wonderful imagination." And Swamiji's eyes became red. He scolded him vehemently. "It's imagination, I'm seeing it. It's going to happen, And it's 100 years. What he saw exactly means there were no means. There was some aluminium factory that has gone. The university has come there. There was no means of really having those things as envisioned by Swamiji in those places. It has happened. I was seeing them. So now we find that he's getting impatient. He found that his life is short. So much he has to do. And he realized, it's not me. It's the organization which I have created. Through that, Ramakrishna will be working. My presence, my impatience will be overwhelming them. I have to segregate. In the last days, his sentences are wonderful. What he's saying? The small plants cannot grow in the shade of a huge banyan tree. They cannot grow. The banyan tree has to go. It has to go. That's the marvelous segregation. A person giving away of his life, knowing very well that his sacrifice is required for the nourishment of the organization. because his followers, they cannot be as sensitive, as highly evolved as he is. They will need their time. It will require its own time. It's very difficult to recognize an avatar by the contemporary people. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a wonderful example. What he used to say? One day he was sitting by the side of the Ganges. So he was sitting by the side of the Ganges, and in front a steamer was passing. The steamer passed, went away quite a long distance, and then Ramakrishna and the one who was sitting by his side, they saw the water has started splashing the banks. It has started splashing the bank. Ramakrishna, the master of example, he says, see, when the steamer was just in front of us, nothing was visible. It has went far away. Now you see the splash. These great souls are like that. It takes time. We are not evolved to relate to them. It takes time. The more the days pass, the more they are far, we find the splashes coming and as if just influencing the entire civilization. So that's what we find. That Swamiji, he's saying that I have to go away, but this work has to go on. That's his segregation is something which doesn't mean that he's getting aloof from us. He's segregating, but at the same time, he's the most empathetic person. He knows sometimes you have to give space to the loved one to really nurture the love. A wonderful example I have just heard, that a mother was instructing her daughter, just the daughter was about to be married, that how to have good relation. In the relation, sufficient space should be there. So how? The mother explained what she took some sand and in her hand, in her palm, and kept the palm stretched. The strong wind came, all the sand blew off. And again she took sand. She then clenched her fist very tightly. All the sand came out through the gap of the fingers. And then again for the third time she took the sand on her hand and just made a small curve in the palm. Now the wind was blowing, but because of the curve, the sand was not blown away. And as it was not tightly clenched, the sand was not falling through the fingers. So this is the idea. Neither be indifferent, nor be encroaching. Don't encroach other space. And at the same time, don't be indifferent. It needs a high sensitivity to learn this, how to keep your palm a little curvature. So you give sufficient space for the loved one to grow. So Swamiji segregated himself, but he told a wonderful thing, that it shall be, with this I will just conclude today's discussion, it may be that I shall find it good to get outside my body, to cast it off like a worn out garment, but I shall not cease to work. I shall inspire men everywhere until the world shall know that it is one with God. What a wonderful stuff. So he's still with us. He's still working with us. His sensitivity is extremely high. Say that, and that empathy, his empathy is something that which doesn't allow him. We all want mukti. And the highly illumined soul, they don't want mukti. They have nothing, there's no desire for them. But ahai teko kripa sindhu, their kripa, their grace is unconditional. Their love is unconditional. And from that love, they are always there to guide us. Let us have that faith that Sri Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, all these illumined souls, they have left their physical body, but they are still there guiding us in our spiritual journey. Let us be open to their presence and know for certain that if we are sincere, they are there to help us out in our spiritual journey. In the spiritual journey, grace is the thing which matters. If we walk one step towards the Lord, He comes running 16 steps. That's what Sri Ramakrishna used to say. Let us try a little. They are there to help us out in the spiritual journey because they're still there. So with these words, I would like to conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.